Welcome to Prayer and Bible Band, Lesson 2. I do not own the rights to this music. Today's topic is Rewards of Perseverance. The background reading is coming out of Romans chapter 5, verses 3 through 5, 2 Thessalonians chapter 1, verses 3 through 12, Hebrews chapter 10, verses 35 through 36, James chapter 1, verse 12, and James chapter 5, verses 7 through 11. The devotional reading is coming out of Job chapter 1, verses 6 through 22. The central verse. I will read the King James Version first and then the New International Version of James chapter 5, verse 11. Behold, we count them happy which endure. Ye have heard of the patience of Job, and have seen the end of the Lord, that the Lord is very pitiful and of tender mercy. The New International Version of James chapter 5, verse 11. As you know, we count as blessed those who persevered. You have heard of Job's perseverance and have seen what the Lord finally brought about. The Lord is full of compassion and mercy. The key terms for today's lesson: rewards, perseverance, and patience. Rewards, something that is given in return for good or evil, done or received, or that is offered or given for some service or attainment. Perseverance, continued effort to do or achieve something despite difficulties, failure, or opposition, the action or condition or instance of persevering. Patience, the quality or state of being not hasty or reckless, showing calm self control. The introduction. As the believer faces many setbacks and trials, he must decide that he will never give up on God's purpose for his life. Even when it seems that life stinks, a believer knows that the paths through life are rarely straight. There are times when the believer will have to encourage himself so he may continue his course no matter how difficult it may be at times. He cannot afford to allow himself to become so discouraged that he loses his heart for his journey with God. The believer knows that growth is not always easy, so he seeks strength from God, the Word, and his prayer life to overcome his human weaknesses. As he submits to God, he is empowered to live for him every day of his life, whether in his home, his neighborhood, or his city. The discussion says, to follow Jesus, it will take endurance, faithfulness, and perseverance are very important in the spiritual life of the believer. God wants faithfulness in large and small things. He wants the believers to live perseveringly so that they can become more perfect before Him. James told the believers to be patient and endure whatever they must go through because the Lord is coming. Perseverance is the key so that the believer's faith does not waver during difficult situations. Sometimes, when the believer's life is hanging on by a thread, when he is losing faith and is short on strength, that's the time when he needs encouragement. Sometimes it is difficult for him to face his fears and remember that he is not alone. Remember that God promised to never leave him and that God will be with him through the hills and the valleys. Perseverance will also train the capacity of the believer's faith and heart to be ready to receive God's miracles. Some growth can only come through receiving a miracle from God. Thank God the believer can draw strength from reading and receiving Hebrews chapters 11 and 12. These early believers held on when there seemed like it was nothing to hold on to. The word tells the believer that after he has stood as long as he could, just keep right on standing. Don't give up. Stand anyhow, keeping his eyes on the finish line. The believer must not throw in the towel, even when he is tired and feeling defeated. He must keep going, for it's the one who endures to the end that will be saved. Job's story is one of the most popular stories of perseverance in the Bible. Most believers can tell you how Job suffered such extreme pain, suffering, and loss. The word of the Lord tells how Job was such a righteous man who loved God and followed his teachings. God had blessed Job to be a wealthy man with a wife and wonderful children. God and Satan had a conversation about Job. Satan asked if he could attack and take from Job, and God allowed it. Satan's goal was to break Job's will and cause him to curse God. Job went through extreme losses, for he lost all his material wealth and his children. His friends came and sat with him for 7 days. They did not talk to him. Finally, when they did speak, they spoke with false accusations. This hurt Job so much, for he had already dealt with his wife not understanding. She told him to curse God and die. But Job withstood the pain of betrayal and kept praising God. He did not understand all that was going on in his life, nor did he like what was going on, but he trusted God. He knew God is a righteous God. It is important that believers really know God and have a real relationship with Him. While losing everything that he owned and suffering in his body, Job was able to persevere and say, "Though he slay me, yet will I trust him." Though Job could not see nor feel God with him, God was there all the time. God finally intervened and encouraged Job to be brave, which he did. Job was able to pray for his friends, and God had mercy on them. God restored Job's health, his wealth, and his children, and allowed him to have a long, prosperous life. James knew how important it was to keep the morale of the saints up. He encouraged the believers in the community who were struggling by reminding them that the Lord was aware of what they were going through. He reminded the believers that they had hope, that things would not always be like that, for Christ is going to return. God knows all about you. He knows the good and He knows the bad. And in His mysterious way, He will come to your rescue. Remember that God is a God of compassion and mercy, and He will not forget your plight. Just as He remembered the saints of old who endured in the face of suffering, He will remember you, and you will be blessed for your perseverance. Job lost everything that he had, but in his latter days, he was blessed with double for his trouble. After the farmer plants his seed and waits for the sun and the rain to do their jobs, he receives a harvest that is so much more than the seed he sowed, some 30, 60, and even 100-fold. The questions for today's lesson. Number 1, why should believers patiently persevere? Number 2, what are some rewards for persevering? Number 3, why was Job going through such suffering? And number 4, what did Job do during this time of going through? The essential thought: you may not understand nor like what God allows in your life, but if you trust Him, God will bless you beyond measure. The end. God bless you, and thank you for joining me today.